What we're about to explore isn't just some dry history lesson. Nope. This is the story of one man's incredible life, and we get to hear it in his own words. So we're going to step back in time all the way to 1899 to San Francisco, and we're going to listen to the memories of Frederick Schaffner, almost like we're his grandkids sitting right there with him.
And that's how he begins his story. It's a real invitation, isn't it? He's asking us to lean in, to listen. He's setting the scene perfectly, making this feel less like reading some old document and more, I don't know, like we're actually sitting by the fire with him. A guy who's seen things most of us can only dream of.
So where did this incredible journey even begin? Well, it starts in a town called Darmstadt, in the place we now call Germany. But you have to understand, the Germany he was born into was a totally different world from the one we know today.
Yeah, you really have to forget the Germany you see on a map today. Back in 1828, when Frederick was born, he wasn't a citizen, he was a subject. He lived in this place called the Grand Duchy of Hesse, which was basically just one small piece in this giant, messy patchwork of little kingdoms and states, each with its own duke or prince. And knowing that, well, it's absolutely key to understanding why a young man would decide to leave everything he'd ever known.
So, what does it take? What pushes a guy who's barely 20 years old to cross an entire ocean? Well, it was a mix of some really powerful things. On the one hand, you had the push factors. Back home, people were literally starving because of bad harvests, and there was all this political unrest, a feeling that the old world was kind of falling apart. And then on the other hand, you had the pull of America, this almost legendary place where your hard work could actually mean something, where it mattered more than which duke you were born under. And he was hearing all about it in these amazing letters from family and friends who'd already gone.
And so he went for it. He made the journey. And his first stop, the loud, chaotic, totally overwhelming streets of New York City. This was the start of a whole new life.
I mean, can you even imagine arriving in New York back then? It must have been insane. A forest of ships in the harbor, 1,000 different languages being shouted all at once. But right in the middle of all that chaos, he found a little piece of home. It was a neighborhood they called Klein Deutschland, Little Germany, a place where he could actually hear his own language again, find some familiar food, build a community. It was his anchor in this brand new world.
And boy, were those first few years a whirlwind. Talk about highs and lows. He finds love, and he marries his first wife, Susanna, in 1850. A year later, his son Herman is born, and you can just imagine him thinking, this is it, this is why I came here. But then, just like that, everything changes. Susanna dies, leaving him a widower, all alone with a tiny child in a country that's still so new to him. That's how he puts it. Joy and sorrow walk close together. It's so simple, but so deep, right? There's no anger in his voice, no why me. It's just this quiet understanding of how life works. And you can just feel the strength in those words, the resilience of a guy who knew that giving up just wasn't an option.
And carry on is exactly what he did. See, Frederick's story doesn't stop in New York, not by a long shot. He's about to find love again. And then he hears that legendary call of the West, a call that would pull him clear across the continent.
Okay, so here are the next big steps that completely changed his life. First, he remarries in 1855, this time to an Irish woman named Martha Matilda. Together, the two of them and his young son Herman, they start looking west. And where were they looking? California. Now, the gold rush itself was pretty much over, but San Francisco? San Francisco was just exploding. It was the city of opportunity.
But this next part, this might be the biggest transformation of all, because this wasn't just about moving to a new city. This was about changing who he was. Think about it. He went from being a subject, someone who just happened to be born under a duke's rule, to becoming a citizen, a full-fledged member of a republic, a nation of laws, something he actively chose to be a part of.
And it all becomes official in the year 1856. Just picture him, standing in a San Francisco courtroom, raising his hand and swearing an oath to become an American. He even says himself that, for a guy who wasn't very emotional, his eyes weren't exactly dry in that moment. You can just feel how much that meant to him.
And man, did he build a life in San Francisco. A real, full, complicated life. His family just blossomed. He and Martha had 5 more kids. He found his footing with work, first as a cook, then becoming a successful saloon keeper. He even registered to vote in 1866, really becoming a part of his community. But, just like he said before, joy and sorrow walk hand in hand. In 1875, his wife Martha dies. She's only 37 years old, and for the second time in his life, he's a widower. And that brings us to the end of his long road. We're back with him by the fire in 1899, and he's looking back on it all. He's taking stock of his 71 years, and he's ready to share what he's learned.
You know, after losing 2 wives, a man needs a rock. And he found one. Her name was Dora. She was also a German widow, so she understood his loss. He calls her one of the great mercies of his life. Just this calm, strong person who helped him raise his youngest kids and made sure the family held together.
So after all of that, after 71 years, 2 ocean voyages, 3 wives, 6 children, after all the joy and all the heartbreak, what's left? What does a man like that learn about life?
While his lessons are pretty simple, but man are they powerful. First, that it takes courage to start over, to leave a world of dukes and choose a world of your own. Second, that a good woman who loves her children, well, that's worth more than all the titles in the world. He learned that there's real dignity in honest work. It doesn't matter what you do. And finally, that you absolutely need your people, your friends, your community, in his case his lodge brothers, to make it through the tough times.
And in the end, it really all comes down to this one powerful thought. He says, I came as a stranger, I leave as a grandfather. I mean, wow, that's his whole journey right there in 2 sentences. He showed up all by himself, a total stranger, and he's leaving as the head of a big American family. For a guy like Frederick Schaffner, that was everything. That was the American story.